Hey guys, welcome back to Sports Bar. This is another Q&A video. This is going to be the continuation of the Q&A video that we shot last time. And if you haven't seen that video, so make sure you watch that video as well. So anyway, I got a list of questions. So the first question is the ball pitching outside leg but hitting stumps is termed as not out. Why do you think this happens? Okay, so the only reason or initially I thought that it might be because of the blind spot of your eye that when a ball is bowled outside the leg stump, it becomes difficult for a batsman to spot the ball. That's what I thought. But then the reason is that because the ball is pitching outside leg and the batsman is standing, it becomes the job for a bowler becomes easier because if the batsman tries to play the shot, one thing is sure that he's going to step his leg out of the crease. So that might make the job for the bowler easy, and so that's the reason why the ball pitching outside the leg stump is termed as not out, no matter what, if it hits the stumps or not. So yeah, so the reason is that the job becomes very easy for the bowler. So yeah, that's what is the. I hope you understand. I know the rules are very complicated, but yeah, I hope you get the gist of the answer. Anyway, so the next question is top three teenagers for each position. So in footballs.
Top three teenagers. See, if you talk about attacking, there are a lot of players who are growing. You have Mason Greenwood, you have Martinelli, you have Bukayo Saka, you have Erling Haaland. So again, if you come back a little midfield, midfield there are some players. Have you heard about Edouard Camavinga? He plays in French league. I don't remember. I think it's. I think
Personally, I
he plays for.
haven't, but the person who asked the question might have heard about him. Anyway,
I think so he plays for FC Metz. He plays for FC Metz. I think I don't remember what teams he plays for. He plays in League One. He's a young prospect. He's growing up, and he's a good midfielder. He carries the ball. He's a playmaker of his team. So again, Eduardo Camavinga for midfield. You have Phil Foden. Pep has given a lot of praise talk for him. He has also said that Pep has also said that Phil Foden is worth $500 million. And after the David Silva is gonna next leave Manchester City next season. I think he's a perfect replacement for David Silva, and he's a long-term replacement if you talk about that. And if you go again in the midfield area, then I have one player. I don't think so. Anyone may have heard of him. He's a very good player in FIFA. If you talk, everyone buys him in FIFA career mode. But in real life, he plays also exceptionally well. He plays a center CDM type of role. And I'm talking about Tonali. I think Sandro Tonali is his name. Again, he plays for Brescia, I think so. He's a good player again, fine player. He's a destroyer. He plays he plays as CDM, good defender as well, and destroyer of the game again. So if you talk about then defense, defense there are little less prospects I have seen than attack and midfield. So again, if you talk about defense, then we have William Saliba. He's soon to be joining Arsenal. Arsenal last time purchased him, but again loaned him back to as we all know, Saint Etienne. Again. Defenders, we have very much less. Midfielders, there are a few, but we have a lot of fine attackers. I think so. I may have answered your questions.
yeah, and talking about teenage sensations, you must know those two kids from Brazil who play for Real Madrid, both Vinicius Junior and Rodrigo. Amazing prospects, and in coming years, these guys are gonna be the best players for Real Madrid. So yeah, and the next question is, can Real Madrid make a comeback? Personally, I believe yes, and I'm saying solely on the basis of belief because, of course, I love Real Madrid. Real Madrid is my favorite team, and again, talking about the game, they have recently won the La Liga. So the form is on Real Madrid's side, and the momentum is on Real Madrid's side. Recently, City has lost the game against Liverpool, so with momentum on Real Madrid side, and yeah, and like they're playing very well, so I believe Real Madrid might defeat Chelsea. Oh, sorry, City. It's going to be difficult, but I believe they can.
Again, if you talk about can they make comeback, yes, they can definitely make a comeback because City, they only have a plan A, they don't have a plan B. And again, as we all saw in the first leg, Real Madrid were leading them 1-0, and just they were just two mistakes, defensive mistakes from Real Madrid, which caused them to lose that match again. It was a lucky break for City, I would not take anything away from the City team. It's a good side, but again, they are made a fantastic team. And if you talk about, recent game that Arsenal defeated Manchester City. There was only if you look at those games, against Manchester City, against Arsenal or against Manchester United or against Wolves. If we can see that City only have plan A, that is to play direct attacking
Planning.
football, and after that, if you take them off game, and if you just create some good chances, and threaten the defense, again you might get some openings and City might be thrown off game. So again, Real Madrid can make a comeback. It's just a thing, that how is Manchester City prepared? What Guardiola will be thinking? Should he play defensive or play attacking? If they play attacking football, then there might be chances, that they might get open in the back and they might can take advantage of it. Again, it's a 50-50 game. Anything can happen, but I'm certainly backing that Real Madrid can make a comeback.
Okay, so I hope you get your answer. Anyway, the next question is, which is the best test innings from a player of an underdog team? So personally, if you ask me, I'll talk about the Indian team that was back in the 90s. Indian team was an underdog team, and to put things in words, the Indian team only won one test series away from home back in the 1990s decade. So that might tell you that Indian team is very underdog, and calling them underdog is because Indian team did not lose even a single series at home. So the single series victory against Sri Lanka is an important series victory for the Indian cricket team history, and hundreds were scored by Navjot Singh Sidhu in the second test, when the only test which the Indian cricket team won in that series was the second test of the 3-match series, and Navjot Singh Sidhu scored 104 alongside Tendulkar, which eventually won Indian team the game. And so yeah, that was one of the underdog innings by an underdog team. And the other underdog innings is again in the same series, but by Vinod Kambli, this time in the third test. Again, like I said, the winning away from home was very difficult, and this wasn't a victory, this was a draw. Vinod Kambli scored 120 runs in the third test match, and that eventually helped the Indian team to draw the test match. So these were the innings, in my opinion, the best underdog innings by an underdog team.
I don't know a lot about test match, but I remember certain innings from Kevin O'Brien, that World Cup innings against England, that
Absolutely,
fastest World Cup 100.
in the World Cup.
And fastest World Cup 100 again, that was superb, just chasing 329, I think. So they were reduced to 134 4 something at one point, and then coming on after that and scoring
113 for 5.
yes. So again, after that, I think so he made a partnership against with Cusack, I think so. I don't remember that other Irish guy name. Again, that partnership again, that just 113 of 63 balls again, very fine innings. And if you talk about second innings, I just remember in 2005 when England, Australia, and Bangladesh played a tie series, ODI tie series, and I think so it was Australia versus Bangladesh, and Bangladesh were chasing to 50 something, and I think so his name is Mohammad Ashrafik. He was a captain once, and he got banned after that. After he was banned, so he didn't play.
Ashraful, Mohammad Ashraful.
Mohammad Ashraful, yes, he scored 100 of the 100 balls, and again that
Mohammad
was the
Ashraful.
innings which and we all know Bangladesh that time. They were just a rising team, underdogs, very very underdogs, and defeating that Australian side on English side again. An important innings from a player, and a victory for Bangladesh.
Yeah, and if you're talking about the Bangladeshi team, I'll talk about Mehmadullah's innings against England in 2015 World Cup,
Yeah.
which won Bangladesh the game, and Bangladesh knocked England out of the World Cup, and Bangladesh played the quarterfinal against India. So that is again an important innings by an underdog player. So yeah, I hope we have answered your questions. And the next question is: are financial fair play rules fair, or there are some loopholes? What do you think of this? This question solely for you.
Loopholes. I think so. There are some loopholes. We all saw what happened with Manchester City. Manchester City. They got paid 10. They got fined 10 million, but they don't get banned. So again, as Jose Mourinho said, if they do not do anything bad, then why did they got fined? Why they had to pay 10 million as a fine? We all know 10 millions for such club is not a big deal. They just buy players of 50, 60 million here and there. Again, 10 million is not a big deal. But if they are not guilty, if they are innocent, then why they have to pay the ban? Why they have to pay the fine? If they are not guilty, then they should not be able to play fine. And if they are guilty, then it should be banned. So again, I think many people think that it's just a money laundering scheme, just to get that money and play their employees. So again, I don't know what are the financial, what are the loopholes, but yeah, there's certainly some loopholes. I don't know where to go because that's just politics and all. I just like politics. I like what I see on the
Also, do
field.
you think that Neymar's move to PSG also did something to the financial play markets?
No, I think so because if you look at the PSG transfer window, they have a lot of money. They bought, but they just bought, there were not some significant deals like 80 million, 90 million. They're just spending 80 million, 90 million. They just spent, I think, 30, 40 million for other players and they spent big on Neymar. And if you talk about Kylian Mbappe, first he was on loan and then they paid it on installment. So again, PSG played it fair around the rules, but again, they have that sort of money and all because of that. But again, I don't think so. Neymar's what that sort of over the financial rules. I think so. They played it very smartly in buying him. Just saving it for one big signing. And for Mbappe, they just paid it in installment again. So there are some
Because the thing
loopholes.
is, after Neymar's move to PSG, a lot of players' prices inflated, and so
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Because see, this guy from Liverpool, Coutinho, was sold for 150 million, for around 150
Mm.
million, and that's a huge price. Anyway, also I'll talk about the financial markets.
Mm.
Back in 2009, when Real Madrid bought Ronaldo, he cost only 80 million. So you compare that with Neymar for 222 million. So yeah, something's really fishy. That's what I think. Anyway, moving on to the next question. How much does home advantage count because there are no fans now? What do you think of this?
See, home advantage definitely counts. It's not like cricket ki matlab you have home pitch and you have all this
You have home pitch and all that. Correct, correct.
familiar conditions. It's not like that.
Hmm.
It's not like cricket. It's a football. Football. It's the same everywhere. You just get that home support, and I think so. Home support is the important thing in football. And if the
Hmm.
players don't have it, obviously it's gonna affect them. But I think so. It has affected the game, but it has not affected the players and all. It just I think so increased maybe because
Hmm.
sometimes if you play bad, then you get shouted from your own fans. They abuse you again and all. Again, this has not happened after because there are no fans obviously in the stadium. So again, this has stopped. The players can relax. They can just take their time, and if they did some mistake, they can just overcome it and all. There's
Hmm.
nobody reminding you on the pitch that you did a mistake, you did it like that. So again, if you talk about in that case, then again, if you can say that it has helped the players. But again, if you talk in some other situation like in derby games, if Tottenham is playing Arsenal on their home ground, so
Arsenal.
Tottenham don't have that fan supporting to cheer them up. It's a big derby game. It's certainly the atmosphere is lost in the derby games. Yeah, if you look at that Tottenham versus Arsenal match, it was just looking like two teams playing, not that two rivals are playing. Again, it has some advantages and it has some disadvantages. I think so. Advantages are better than disadvantages right now. But again, we need fans to come back to the stadium. Otherwise, it's just not a regular football, normal football that we know.
Look, in my opinion, it is ridiculous to whistle boo your own players, because at the end of the day, they're playing for your team, they're playing for you, and it's very stupid. It's very wrong to, like, whistle at your own players, boo at your own players. I heard Gareth Bale say this in an interview, and yeah, it must hurt as a player, because you are supposed to increase a player's morale, not you're not supposed to boo them and make them feel even worse. They know that they're making a mistake, and they feel even worse than what you feel as a fan. So that's what fans need to understand. They need to increase a player's morale rather than whistling or throwing abuses at them. So yeah, it is the way it is, and yeah. So these are the questions that you asked us, and we have answered all the questions as of now. You can ask us more questions. We'll link our Instagrams down below, and you can also ask questions to us down in the comment section. And yeah, make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
Peace out.